down, left, right, BA.
What's up, everybody? It is Wednesday, July 12th, 2017. This is Radio Tokyo. I'm Jonathan. I'm here. Nick, I don't even know why I say that anymore. It's kind of obvious that I'm here. Obviously, I'm the one saying it. But anyway, just so y'all know, just like on Monday's episode, that was like my time to shine for, topics. Today was going to be Nick's stack. It was going to be the Nick episode, and he could talk and talk and talk, and y'all could learn such amazing things from him. And then we had some shit happen, and the topics got changed. So that in mind, hi Nick, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm wondering what exactly the topic was going to be.
It was going to be stuff and things, and it would have been your show, but because I, am just a
Fucking monster!
there's just no way it's going to work out that you're going to get to hear the topic anymore.
That little clip has never been more appropriate until just that moment.
Which clip?
Your thing.
Oh, the one where I called myself
Fucking monster!
that one?
That's the one.
Well, it's true, I guess, especially in regards to this topic, but it would have been great. But, nope, stuff happened, and we're not going to get to do that topic today, Nick. I'm so, you know what, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry at all.
I know you're trying to torture me, but I feel like you're torturing the audience more now.
No, because it would have been great. Like, it literally would have been a perfect topic for you. But, again...
Fucking monster!
So, no.
Well, I guess we just have to move on.
I love that clip. It makes me happy. Oh, for those of y'all wondering, that's someone I know in real life who, I'm not going to give away their name, but everything they post, like a video on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, it's done through Snapchat. And she's talking about a spider in that. Yeah, it's great. So that's our new sound clip. Yay, we got sound clips now. We have a real show going on here. Yay, and Nick didn't get to talk about anything cool. Haha.
Right. Anyways.
So, today's episode is obviously going to be about something different than what we're going to talk about. But it's going to be about the news. And I got to say, I was reading the story last night, Nick, and I don't know if you saw it. But did you see the one about the man who went to the hospital?
No? I don't think I've seen anything about that.
It was one of those, emergency room horror story type things. And apparently he was having some sort of really bad stomach problems, and, they were asking him what was going on. And, eventually he went up that he had a... What?
Don't do this.
Don't do what? Let me finish the topic for those, who
No. Oh god. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, people.
Why do you have to... Okay, damn it. Why do you have to ruin the joke?
That was the worst joke you've ever made.
No,
Ever.
it's a great joke. It's a great joke. Let me finish the joke and quit ruining things, Nick. Because right now you're being...
Fucking monster!
So let me do it.
Tell it who's the real monster.
Well, the real monster is the actual topic of the show. I'm just trying to have something light and refreshing and entertaining before we open Pandora's box.
Well, go on.
God damn it. Anyway, now that I've given away this joke, anyway, the man goes to the hospital and he's complaining of stomach problems, and they're questioning about it, what's going on, and he reveals that he has a My Little Pony fetish, and it turns out that he has taken several of the figures and rammed them up his ass. Okay, and the hospital managed to get the main six, the main characters on the show, removed from this man's rectum, and they reached a statement saying that his condition is listed as stable.
Yeah, yeah, you're the monster. You're the real monster.
No, that's actually a funny joke. You know it's a funny joke.
You're a horrible person. I'm ashamed to be here right now.
I don't know why. I mean, like I said, we have to have some sort of humorous thing before we talk into what actually happened today. So yeah, apparently this morning, HRES 438 was filed, and you can see on the screen right there, impeachment of Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and basically obstruction of justice, high crimes and misdemeanor, obstruction of justice, all these wonderful things he's been being accused of. So yeah, that's kind of what disrupted the show today.
It was a pretty worthy disruption.
Well,
It,
it would have totally been a Nick episode. Like I'm not kidding when I say this would have genuinely been a Nick episode. But now we're not gonna get that. We're just gonna get to look at the resolution. Well, at least part of it, because only part of the whole thing has actually been released. But yeah, that's basically what it is. Is articles of impeachment have apparently been filed against the President of the United States. And as y'all are wondering what impeachment is, it means a little bit different in other countries. But primarily in the United States, it's a charge of, reading it off screen here, literally, charge of misconduct made against the holder of public office. Basically, uh, president, vice president, mayor, congressman, whatever, has fucked up. They've done something they shouldn't be doing, and rather than waiting until that person can be elected, or there can be an election that can be removed that way, you just kind of kick them out. Like it's basically a vote of no confidence, but with an actual result rather than saying, oh, like for example in Star Wars, um, when Chancellor Valorum had the vote of no confidence moved against him by Queen Amidala. It's that, only there is not a new vote to pick a new chancellor. This person's just moved, like removed, and then the person, especially in the case of president, the person next in line comes in because order of ascension is a thing here. Succession, I'm sorry, that's the order of ascension is England. Order of succession is here, and that would mean we're going to have Mike Pence as the president.
which a lot of people were anticipating eventually happening. Um, I have a feeling that this won't go through right now. The Republicans seem determined to dig in their heels, which is a little surprising to me, actually.
Well, it's. I feel like it's going to happen.
Do you
The
think
reason I
it's
feel like it's
gonna
going to happen.
happen eventually?
Well,
But I'm not sure it's going to happen right now.
okay, look at it this way. And I know there's some people that I know that say that all I do is spout off leftist bullshit. No, I'm really not spouting off leftist bullshit. I'm spouting off reality, and you're just ignoring it. But um, the reality is there has been some things that have happened that are not okay, and a foreign country has managed to influence our elections. Now, whether you want to say that that influence was taking voter information, which was done, or it was distributing memes, basically uh, distributing propaganda and influencing how people vote, it doesn't matter. Either way, the election was messed with, and we were told this actually during one of the final debates between Trump and Clinton, she stood up on stage and said that the Department of Justice, uh, basically the federal government was aware that there had been possible tampering with the election, and it was a result, or rather, it was going on at the same time the Obama administration uh, kicked about 30 Russian officials out of the country with the charge levied against them that they were spying. You know, remember that? You remember that? That was like a year or so ago. Anyway, they were kicked
Yep.
out, and there were these two compounds that had traditionally been used by the Russians that have historically, unsurprisingly, been used for acts of espionage. But there's a reason that they're allowed there. Is because they can be more readily monitored, and whatever information they get out, it's easier to track. So they know it was coming from these two residents, one and or both these two residences, and they knew everyone who was involved. So the Obama administration is like, yes, we know what you're doing. We're going to kick you out, and they were never going to use those, those two houses again to house Russian diplomats or officials. Easy solution, you would think, right? Well, the Trump administration has come back and said that those 30 people are now allowed to come back in the country, and those properties are now going to be used by the Russians again because Obama did it and fuck Obama. But like I said, this was brought up months ago, and even in the election in France, they knew Russia was getting involved. Russia's been steadily trying to become a world power, and I know, like on the show, we've kind of compared the rise of Trump and in his election to Hitler, but there's another comparison to Hitler you can make here, and that's Putin. All these rather aggressive stances, including kind of attacking people. Now it's nothing at all like the invasion of Poland or conquering France or anything like that Germany did in World War II. But he's kind of gotten aggressive with his expansion, and he took over Crimea like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Uh, so now here it is. He's meddling in Putin's meddling in politics, and everyone's like, well, maybe it's not that bad. It's okay. It's fine. Whatever. And people here are aware of it. And the more you hear it, the more it's like, well, shit. Maybe if we just get him out of office, the result of it, Donald Trump, will be able to put Mike Pence in. But the problem is, the real problem with this is that it's basically the entire administration that's fucked. Everybody is. Now, this does not mean that I'm saying that the election needs to be handed to Miss Clinton. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what needs to be done is that the person who is the figurehead for all of this needs to go like head of the snake being removed type thing, get rid of it, and then progressively punish everyone else involved. And it's going to take a lot of effort. I mean, look at historical impeachment, processes. Nixon was basically tax evasion, and then you had Clinton, who had it filed, Bill Clinton, not Hillary Clinton, who had it filed on him because he lied under oath. He committed perjury. So you have someone who's not paying their taxes and someone who's lying about it, and here you have someone who either willingly or unwillingly allowed a foreign power to mess around with our electoral process, has threatened other people in government. He's undermined his own administration. Now he's putting people in danger with the healthcare thing that he himself has called me. Like, it's all these terrible, terrible things, and it's not in the best interest of anyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Christian, gay, Muslim, atheist, whatever. It's not in the best interest of anyone for this man to remain in office, because the longer he's there, the longer the core people and the ones who are basically supporting him, no matter what is said and done, are going to be able to control more power. And that's the legitimate fear. Like, that's where the comparison to Hitler comes into play. And I realize, again, comparing someone to Hitler on the internet is automatically losing, but there's a historical comparison here. That's how certain people have come to power. They've just begun, altering things, doing away with things that were done in the past, and they were able to just consolidate more and more power amongst themselves by putting people in place who would do what they said. And that's kind of what the possibility is here.
I mean, it's really an interesting process, honestly. The whole thing of impeachment. So much pressure and force to make its own head figure. Donald Trump. The Republicans threw their hat in with him, and now become the first impeached president. Because I don't think he'll resign like Nixon did. The greatest.
No,
Um,
he's not going to like it. The reason I say this is not because I think that he feels he's doing no wrong. Um, there's not going to be a resignation of President Trump because this is a man who is not used to losing, and this is going to sound like I'm trying to belittle his accomplishment here, and I'm not. Being president is a very serious thing, and anyone who is elected to the office of president definitely deserves your respect. Okay, so understand when I'm talking about negatively about him, Nick, this is not you because you know this. But like when I talk about someone who's a president, I'm talking about them representing the office because the office is what matters. It's kind of like the idea in the military that you salute the rank, not the person. Okay. Um, so like I had nothing but high esteem for the office of president, and by extension, the person who's there. So I generally do respect Trump for being president. But the problem is, um, he's not going to willingly give that up. Not like, he's gonna require some kind of insurrection against him or anything like that. But he's not going to give it up because he still talks about the election. It's been 7 months, actually since November, so it's been 8 months, the better part of a year already, and he still hands out laminated and signed copies of election maps. Everyone he talks to is like, "Do you see these states here? These red states? These are the ones that voted for me. This is them. This is them." Like he goes on and on and on about the election, and he keeps talking about it. He keeps talking about it 8 months later. In fact, the most recent trip over in for the G20 conference he was at, which by the way there is a fantastic picture of him sitting at a table by himself and everyone else is kind of like 10 feet away behind him talking and mingling. He's just there by himself. That's it's sad to see that, but that's how the rest of the world views us right now, is that we're on our own because we have someone who, when he's there to discuss all of these global issues that concern every nation, and every person on the planet, all he was talking about was the election and
yeah,
the
and
emails and how the Democrats were terrible and how Obama sucked. That is all he discussed. And I'm sorry, that's not what needs to be going on.
it's really interesting because, in many ways, Trump is a real reflection. I wouldn't say capitalist ideals, but and Wolf, he is out for himself, out for his company, and this representation, he is doing the same thing for America. he thinks is best for America. I'm trying to think of how to say this. Horrible way to approach being president. Not looking out for America, of course, because, you know, the president should be looking out for America. Wolf approach. It's so global now. The internet improvements in transportation, almost old, ancient ideal. Donald Trump honestly might have been a good president in the, let's say, the 1800s, the early 1900s. But an adequate president. ISIS is still a legitimate option. And really can't do that anymore. We can't be that. The divide that we're having with our European allies and other allies around the world is really troubling, really could lead to very not good things in the future.
Did you just say very not good things? Because I think he said very not good things. Well, it's not that you're wrong. But yeah, like, I mean, and of course, it took me a second to find the picture. I'm sorry, y'all. But that's him. Like, that is our president sitting at a table with people. Now, you can't see it the way I have it displayed up there. But China, us, United Kingdom, everyone else is all around him. And you see the leaders kind of back there behind him, and he's just by himself. That's how the rest of the world views us right now. And that's not how things should be. And if you ever look back at some of the pictures of Obama at one of these conferences, he's always mingling with someone else. He's not trying to be like there was a thing a few months ago at some other conference where Trump was basically shoving people out of his way so that he could stand in front of him, like, and that was viewed as being, putting America first. We're more important, but like shoving someone out of the way that you're there to work with, is not cool.
Yes, I do.
And
And
and and there's
I think this. Well, I think it's an interesting point because there's a big difference between being a leader in front. Donald Trump, whether you agree with him or don't like him, in many regards, on many things, he's had many failures as well. Can't just disregard that. But he's never really been a leader per se. That he draws other people to him. Uh, as an industry leader, as a political leader, even his closest allies are often hesitant to really. You can look at Paul Ryan, for example, trying to find a middle ground of backing Trump and him at the same time because he disagrees with so much of his policies.
and see, like, what I've noticed is there's this reaction from Republicans about, well, Paul Ryan needs to go too because Paul Ryan is weak, Paul Ryan's ineffectual, and it's the same thing that Democrats say, like he's bad at his job, But the reason it comes up with the Republicans is that he needs to be doing more for the president. He needs to be helping him out and not trying to be obstructionist. And like you said, Paul Ryan's trying to do his fucking job. Like, he's legitimately trying to balance all of this crazy shit coming from the White House on down, and trying to balance that with what needs to be done. I mean, it's kind of contrasted here to what we have in Texas. Okay, and this is for those of you who aren't from Texas, you'll might want to look into this. It's very interesting. But our lieutenant governor here wanted a bathroom bill in place. You know, one of those bathroom bills that said that trans people cannot use the restroom with who they identify with. They have to go with what's on their birth certificate. Okay, and the speaker of the House here, the Texas State House, said no. We have an education bill. We have a spending bill. We have all these other important things that the legislature needs to actually handle because it affects the lives of Texans. And the lieutenant governor was trying to call for a special session to keep legislators there who now our legislature is only in session every couple of years, okay? And this would have kept them there longer. It would have kept them away from their jobs. It would have kept them away from their families, their hobbies, everything, because they have to be in Austin for longer. And the problem with this is that the lieutenant governor cannot call for that. It's only the governor. And about a week later, the governor, Greg Abbott, had been convinced to call for it. Now, I don't think that that bill is going to pass, but the Speaker of the House is definitely in the right for saying there's other things to be handled. And again, I'm not saying that Trump has got terrible ideas, because like you said, he would have been a fairly decent president 100 years ago or so. And I'm not saying that he has got only bad ideas. So like, no one should at any point in time think that that's what I feel about the man. I think that in his own way, even if he does have outdated thoughts, he does give a shit about what goes on in the country, and I do think that he wants, legitimately in his mind to make America great again. Problem is, America's already fucking great, like it's the greatest country on the face of the earth. Heard that my entire life from people who all of a sudden say it needs to be made great again. I don't get why it's been great your entire life, and then all of a sudden you have a black man in office and it's terrible. I don't know, but whatever.
The best. It is honestly right now the best it has ever been.
Yes, it really is. I mean, like, the thing about the country, and this is me speaking from a historical perspective here. America was not great in the beginning. We had a lot of problems, and we have progressively tried to fix them. The number one most pressing issue for the country was slavery. We solved that within about 90 years or so. Like it took, there is some saying that is, if you've ever read the Gettysburg Address or heard, 4 score and 7 years ago, that's 87. But anyway, so you're looking at about 90 years to fix that one problem. It took, 1870, 1880, somewhere around there, to allow black people the right to vote. The 1910s, 20s for women. Then we finally desegregated society in, the late 60s. Then then we're dealing with issues of gay and lesbian people, marriage equality, of course, 2 years ago. America is slow to do the changes that we need to make sometimes. And the past 8 years under Obama, we made a lot of changes. We finally fulfilled something as a country that was put forth under Franklin fucking Delano Roosevelt in the 1920s. The idea of promote the general welfare as said in the Constitution. Like, protect your citizens, make sure that they're alive and healthy and everything. Which, yes, it's the fucking right. It's in the Constitution, and that's what bothers me is people who say that healthcare is a privilege, not a right. No, it's in the Constitution. It's literally there promote the general welfare. That's what that means. Look up the word welfare, if you want to know. But anyway, back to being on point. Um, Trump is legitimately a president of a time that is long since passed. It's not a bad thing to be that. It's just that is not what we need. We don't need uh, a country that is focused on oil and steel and gas. That's not what drives our country. Now I realize, about half of our energy comes from oil, but the other half comes from nuclear and wind and solar energy. Um, we're not so much focused on coal and oil as like we used to be. And it's like the most interesting part about this is, um, the wall that he has decided that we need to have. That's going to have solar panels on top of it. It's going to be solar powered. Uh, the coal mines in West Virginia have been steadily not laying their employees off, but just kind of delaying their payments because they're shifting them over to being able to work with solar energy and wind power and stuff like that. I mean, like, things have changed. The energy needs have changed of our country, and that's one of the important things about going to somewhere like the G20 conference, because you hear all these other countries talk about these things. And then you had the Paris Agreement that we've been pulled out of because it was unfair to us. And 100 or so years ago, yeah, that would have made sense because we were still uh, trying to become we were already an industrial nation, but we were still essentially doing the nation building thing where we were expanding our country and our capability as a country. So yes, that might have been unfair to business practices 100 years ago, but now it's not, because if you read it, it clearly states that everyone, every country that's a part of it, is held to the exact same standards. You're going to reduce emissions. You're going to uh, help one another, and with uh, finding better ways to process solar energy or wind or whatever, like all these things that are positive and helpful. And we've been pulled out of that because that is an idea that is out of place in today's society, and it's it's weird. Like, it's really, really weird that that's what we're doing.
It's I think part of the problem, part of the genuine problem, rapid growth and expansion is exciting. And obviously we aren't growing as fast as we used to be. We aren't expanding like we were in the past. More stable in a large part. Off the problems that we do have today, because we do have some major problems, especially with income inequality, working harder for less, things of that nature. Look at the country today and compare it to where it was 100 years ago. We are in a better position now. Even people are just, your quality of life is better. Almost everything is better now. It's just that it's not new. It's not, and the differences between being rich and poor are bigger than ever before. I feel like people, interesting aspects of capitalism is that if you're not growing rapidly, you feel like you're failing. feel like you're not accomplishing or growing or living up to the expectations. And I think that's where the expression "Make America Great Again" comes from. Remember when things are booming and everything's new and exciting now a lot. It things we're still great. We are still an amazing place. Uh, Problems to pass, and 15 years or so. Um, I want to say an overreaction. Um, and a lot of nostalgia of older generations or who are just remembering things from the past. I really feel like they're not remembering what history was genuinely like back then. It's I feel like we're afraid for almost no reason, being threatened. The threats that we face today are nothing compared to Germany, compared to Japan, compared to when Britain and France were empires. R was alive and well and thriving. We our threats today are almost minuscule. Almost just that the mere existence of a threat is scarier to a lot of people. Threat. And I think that's what a lot of what led to the election of Trump. Nostalgia and uncertainty and just things of that nature.
See, it, I know we keep sighing talking about this, and it's probably the most we ever sighed talking about anything. But it's frustrating, and like anyone who's not paying attention to what's going on, which is a lot of people, are not as frustrated, I guess, as we are. But anyway, the thing with capitalism here is, yeah, definitely you do feel overly constrained, especially since there's this big problem with this thing called outsourcing, which we have thanks to John F. Kennedy. Thanks for that, Mr. President. But that led to a lot of expansion in business. Now, that expansion has gone to being able to produce things uh, much more cheaply and sell them at a higher price, which is causing problems. And that's eventually led, especially in the Reagan era, to the closing of businesses here in the United States. And it's a terrible thing, and that's where the whole concern about bringing American jobs back here is at. But, and of course, there's a but to this. There's got to be a but. Um, the um, the problem with this is that you can't just magic these jobs back. They're gone for fucking ever. You're going to have to actually start reversing things, and this is where uh, Trump is not going to do this. This is where no Republican will do this. This is where like society is so enamored with the idea of lowering taxes. We're going to have to lower taxes, and that's where the concept of upper class, middle class, lower class comes from here. And the middle class is the one that's burdened because it's the largest one. But the reality is, just like you said, with income inequality, the larger share of taxes up until, oh, around the time Reagan took office, give or take, a president or two. Uh, that was like the largest share of taxes was actually paid for by wealthy people, those who own businesses. And there's this idea that you'll be able, if you give someone an incentive, or you reduce their taxes, then they'll have more money and they'll expand their business. And yeah, in some instances, that's true. That's what happens. But the reality is, on a much larger scale, that's not what happens. People here close factories because they don't want to pay someone, say $15 an hour, and that's where the minimum wage comes in. But that's a different thing. No one wants to pay someone that per hour because they might be losing money, but they get to keep more and more in taxes. So you eventually have companies like Walmart that are 13.5, $14 billion a year, and they're not paying an equal amount of taxes on their income that someone like, say, my parents would be, you know, and that's the problem. And
Uh, I want to point out something here. It's a theory that was largely laughed at until Reagan. And while it did create a very short-term economic boom, other factors involved there, mainly the age of computers had started. The boost that provided really was the driving factor behind the economy during the 80s, which is a lot of people attribute to Reaganomics, but it was really computers. The emergence of computers allowed companies to do things faster, cheaper, more efficiently, higher quality. It was an amazing time, and lowering taxes is actually counterintuitive. People don't understand is that the larger the tax you pay are to spend on an expense, because expenses are tax deductible. So just for a ridiculous figure, let's say 5% of your taxes, you're taxed at a rate of 75%, rather. Every dollar that I spend on my business, I'm really only losing 25 cents of that. Tell me that my taxes are 10%, rather, I'm losing 90 cents for every dollar I spend on expenses. It actually discourages companies money, because when you have lower taxes, you want your profits as high as possible. And that's why we see companies with record-breaking profits consistently over the past, especially with Reagan and Bush and things like that. Not only were they trying to push their income as high as possible, they were lying about income. He knew that the low taxes push income as much as possible with low taxes. companies are less willing to spend. They're less willing to hire. They're less willing to pay for infrastructure. Long-term investments. And when taxes are low, you want short-term profits as much as possible. It's hurt us much more than it's helped us. That's why our growth is so slow. That's why we're having so many economic problems. Maintaining our growth and maintaining hiring new people and things of that nature.
See, like that's that's where I realize that people don't understand how the economy works. And the reason I say that is because, long story short, it used to be, especially under Eisenhower had one of the actually had I think it was like a 90% tax rate. And yet we had huge growth. Uh, the reason that past presidents had such high tax rates was not because taxation itself and the government's getting money. It wasn't that. It really wasn't that. What it was like just like you just said. You want a higher tax rate because that means you're going to be spending your money more wisely, and you're actually going to lower your income by doing it. And the reason when you lower your income is because there's less money that you're taking in that's going to be taxed. In other words, more money to be taken away. That's what a tax is. It's a portion of your money that you take away. So ideally, the more money that you earn, the more you have that can be taxed, and you're losing more money. That's not saying that you need to intentionally become poor, but what it did is it led to people saying, okay,
Investing.
yes, investing. That led to people expanding their businesses, opening more businesses, hiring more people, so that way they were spending more and more of that money that could be taxed, and that spread the wealth a little bit. And the reason that's a wonderful idea is because the more people you have that are working, the more money you have that's being spent, unless someone's being a dick and is just hoarding it all, which does happen. Some people, like to save money more than they spend it. But the
Or
more
what
people,
the rich are doing right now.
yes, but like essentially, the more people that you have that are working, the more money you're going to have in the economy, and the healthier the economy becomes because you have more money. That, like for example, the once the wealthy person at the top has lowered their tax bracket, it starts spreading their wealth out amongst everyone else. So everyone else, as a whole, is paying less taxes. But there's this idea, and this is something that is carried on right now by the Trump administration, that we need to have all these tax breaks and incentives for the wealthiest among us because they're the job creators. Like, no, that's not how it fucking works. That's why you have this dearth really between the wealthiest and like the maybe wealthy, people who are multimillionaires, and like goddamn, even the multimillionaires are nowhere near as wealthy as people who now I'm just going to sound stupid, but there's a difference. There's always obviously a difference between a million and a billion, but what we're talking about here is a gap of essentially of 100,000 to a billion. Like that's the difference in wealth, as easy as I can explain it. And the reason it needs to happen is because that money needs to come back down. And what's going to happen is once that money goes out and starts helping other people, you'll have more people working. You'll bring jobs back here. You'll do this. You'll do that. But just like George Carlin said, that's not going to happen because the people in power don't want that to happen. And that's one of the concerns with Donald Trump is that he seemingly does not want that to happen because he enjoys his money. And it's great and wonderful to enjoy your money, but if you talk about making America great again and you're able to convince enough people to essentially override the electoral college for the way it's worked in the past, to where there's enough votes caught up in states that really have no voting power compared to anyone else, and put you in office by saying shit like that, you need to do it. And here it is, the better part of it. Like we're 7 months into this already. We're almost a year, and that's not being done. And traditionally that's done in the first 100 days, and we talked about this in a past episode. Like people worried about the first 100 days. Like, why is that a measure? And in this case, the 100 days was shrugged off like, oh, well, he's got a lot that he's doing. It's like, okay, well, you promised this and this and this and this and this and this, and here it was. Like the number one thing was repeal and replace Obamacare. That was going to happen in 100 days. Didn't happen. Congress is in recess until fucking August, so the rest of this month, and they're probably going to be there for a while, even though some people, some Republicans, a lot of Republicans in fact, are saying, and Democrats saying that we need to go ahead and go back and get these problems solved because the American people are waiting on us. But yet you have those in charge saying, no, we're going to wait. And it's this weird thing, like those who have only a portion of the power are saying, no, we need to actually be doing this. We need to be repealing this. We need to be replacing that. We need to be passing this law, and this law, and this law. We're here to govern. And then those with real power are saying, nope, we're not gonna do anything. And then you have the president who's screaming, do it, 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 do it. And it's weird. Government is a strange thing in this country, I guess, is the best way to put it. But that's what's going on. And then, like, that just goes back, to the whole point of impeachment, that you had the president who's saying one thing, people under him, directly under him, are saying another, and then you have everyone else who's like, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, and there's no fucking leadership. There's none. It's not like it's the strangest thing I've ever seen. There's no actual leadership going on, and I don't know if any of y'all have ever actually watched, say for example, Gordon Ramsay on Hell's Kitchen. There's leadership there, but even then it gets to the point that you're supposed to have, the people on each team are in charge of their own kitchen, like their own half the kitchen, and then you have a sous chef who's in charge of them. And there's more functionality in something like that, like in a restaurant where no one communicates and everyone's fucking up. There's more functionality in that than there is in our government. And the problem is there's no one, being the expediter. There's no one saying we need this and this and this and this and this. Do this, do that, take care of this, take care of that. And it's led to problems like we have right now. And that's why people are so dissatisfied in elected officials. And that's why it's gone on to where people are dissatisfied in the president. Because there's this problem, and this problem, and this problem. And the problem with the problem is, if you don't solve the problem, then it's going to lead to a collapse. And there's already a question that our government was undermined by a foreign power. That's a problem in and of itself. That is the number one problem we should be having, not whether someone has a dick and can pee in the ladies' room. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Even address really the matter of trying to impeach him, which I think is, there's so much to go over. Do you want to address that?
Honestly, we've been doing the show for like almost an hour now, and there's like we haven't even scratched the fucking surface of what this means. Like just to have it introduced, and keep in mind this is the second time, because like a month and a half ago it was brought up. There was someone sitting
And
there
it's far
on
more
the floor,
serious.
on the fucking floor, saying we need to impeach the president. There are Republicans talking about this. There are Democrats talking about it. Independents. everyone of every political stripe is talking about impeaching the president. And just this past hour, it didn't even, for one, it didn't even seem like it's been an hour, but it has. But we haven't even fucking scratched the surface. We're just kind of poking at this idea about, and that's why I said Pandora's box. You know, it's not even the good version of Pandora's box. Not that there is a good version, but it's like you think there's all these wonderful things there. It's like, no, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse because oh, I don't I don't even think we can get into that today, Nick.
We might need to do it on Friday.
Maybe Friday, or maybe I don't know. Maybe let you have the Nick episode. I don't know.
Happens in the news. How serious this
Or
becomes.
more likely, we'll talk about butts.
I'm totally okay with talking about butts.
I like big butts, and I cannot lie. Metaverse can't deny
Agree
it.
with you.
When a girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get sprung. No, we're not gonna be doing that. We're not gonna be doing that because I will not be
Fucking monster!
again today.
Can't help yourself, but we know.
Hey, I happen to like that clip. It's hilarious. I'm glad I edited it down. It's a great clip.
Are we gonna end the show here?
Yeah, I think we're gonna end the show talking about all these terrible things. Well, not really talking about terrible things, just kind of having discussed some terrible stuff. But that's gonna be it for today. Hey, we reached the end of the show! Yay! And now I'm sad. Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
Anyway, yeah, like I said, we barely even scratched the surface here. So we may come back. I don't know what we're going to talk about Friday. We may talk about something entirely unrelated to all these really heavy issues we've discussed lately. But that said, please remember to like this video, comment on it, share it, subscribe it, go to our Facebook page, give us a like there. Please visit our Patreon page and give us your money. Tweet at me. And go to Twitch, which, by the way, I posted something on Twitch today. Yay! Now, it wasn't a live stream. It was just a clip. It was actually something that's was uploaded to YouTube. But, yeah, go there and like the Twitch page and stuff and things.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Fucking monster!